Hi, I'm Holly Ann from Safe for Kids, and this afternoon I'd like to introduce you to somebody that we've been selling her books for quite some time, the beautiful Nicky Johnston. We're thrilled to be selling 3 of her books, and we also are going to include Nicky's books in our new lesson plans. So, hi Nicky, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thanks so much.
So you have many books, both that you've written yourself and that you've illustrated, but the 3 that we use all the time, the first one that we've included in our lesson plans was Actually I Can. And you wrote and illustrated this one. Can you tell us about this one, Nicky?
Yeah, so that was, wow, it was a long time ago, it feels like I did that one. So that was my 3rd book that I had done. Go Away, Mr. Worry Thoughts, which is the other one you have as well, was my very first one. And both of them, you know, Actually I Can, I guess, stemmed from looking at the what if questions that get children often ask, you know, what if something really bad happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And challenging the what ifs to think you can turn it around and ask, what if something really good happens? So that's kind of, you know, where that book was aimed at. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've included it in our lesson plans because one of the things that we talk about is risking on purpose, and
Yes.
it fits so perfectly in with that because the little girl in the story, she's very outgoing and very brave, but Connor is quite shy and
Yeah.
but in the end he ends up being the hero of the story. And I just love your beautiful soft illustrations. I follow you, I stalk you a bit and watch. Ideally, one day I'd love for you to illustrate one of my books. You're so busy. I know I'll have to get it in line. But they're so beautiful and colourful and soft. But it's a really nice little book because it really talks about how, you know, you might be shy and things like that. But, you know, if you risk on purpose, if you give it a go, then you get to be a superhero.
Yeah.
So that's the beautiful Actually I Can. And then you've already mentioned Mr. Worry Thoughts.
Yes.
So this was your first.
That was my first book, yes. And Mr. Worry Thoughts is actually the name that we gave my eldest son's worries. So it is really a very true, useful, and we still use the term "Go Away, Mr. Worry Thoughts" even now. It's part of our language to, I guess, to take away the worries from the child and actually, you know, turn them into something else that they actually have control over, whether they listen to or not, or at least attempt control, because, you know, Mr. Worry Thoughts is sort of that inner voice that tells you those negative thoughts. So we actually label it Mr. Worry Thoughts, and yeah, so that's where that book started.
And what I particularly love about this one is at the back of the book that you've got ideas about what to do for, you know, you might have a squeeze ball, you might have a box, you know, put your worries on an aeroplane and throw it away. So it's really a practical one, and we're currently writing lesson plans for remote communities, and, you know, it's been fun writing the activities to go with this book. To help adults talk with kids about that sort of stuff, because, you know, there are a few other books out in the market now about worries, but yours was actually, when did you publish it? Because it is
2008.
Yeah, so it was, you know, one of the first ones that I've
And look, I actually think you just can't have enough books about it. So I celebrate, like back then in 2008, and realistically I wrote it and illustrated in 2006 because the process takes a long time. Back then there really wasn't many books, and what, you know, it's interesting you point out that the 4 pages at the back, which were the hints and tips that we used. And, you know, that was with my first son. I've now got 4 boys, and I'm still using those strategies with my 4th son. And I really, at the time, I really teetered with, do I include those? Don't I? Do I? Don't I? And I changed at the last minute to pull them out, and then I put them back in again. So, and the feedback I've had, particularly with that book, is those strategies. They're only simple, and there's a myriad of ways you can use the worry box, and a myriad of ways you can use the paper plane was really good. That was one that we used to use all the time. And the other thing we used to do was we would collect, when we had so many, you see, because there were lots of worries, we would put them in the fire and, you know, obviously with the parent around, or bury them in a hole in the garden. So, you know, there's lots of, I guess, physical, concrete things you can do, which really helps that sense of taking control of those inner negative thoughts.
Definitely. And one of the things that I was going to include in the lesson plans was actually to make like a peg worry doll.
Yes.
You know, I think it's Mexico and places like that.
Yes.
They have those tiny little worry dolls. But, you know, I don't think, like you said, there can never be enough books.
No.
Also, what strategies that work for one child may not work for another child.
Yeah.
So having
that's right.
strategies, I think is beautiful, and that's why we're really proud to sell this one.
Yeah.
And then this one, Brave Danny, you did
Yes.
beautiful illustrations for this one.
That's right. Yes. So I collaborated with this one, and I did the illustrations for the book, and it was a very the illustrations had to be done in a way that, you know, illustrations tell half of the story, and I really wanted the illustrations to sort of, I guess, show things, but not in a too confronting way, if that makes sense.
Because this one's about domestic violence, which of course, you know, is a very sensitive subject.
Yeah.
And you've done it so beautifully. You know, Danny goes on a play date, and then he's worried because he doesn't know what the other, you know, kid's dad's going to be like, and when he was gorgeous. And then they had the visitors to the school that gave them, you know, talked about feelings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they get given a brochure, and he takes it home to his mum, and then she rings the helpline, and everybody lives happily ever after. So it's done so sensitively. And again, there are a couple of books out, but again, I really love this one because it is done so beautifully.
Yeah.
And the fantastic bonus with this one is there is already written lesson plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've printed them out, and
it's
you know, a substantial.
I
think it's
well, even
32 pages.
Yeah. The whole aim of this particular book was to get it in the hands of people who are able to do it exactly like you are. So this book's probably a little bit different to other children's books, which you know, are designed to go in the bookshop on the shelves, you know, and be, you know, lovely nighttime stories. This has a particular purpose, and I think it's been done really, really well, especially with those teacher resources or the lesson resources to assist, because there's so much information, but the book itself is for children, and then the extra bits are for people assisting those children. So yeah.
And so it was written with the National Rural Women's Council?
So it was funded by them. So it was an initiative that, and they worked really hard to have that book completed. Both Robin and myself were approached to work together on the book, and they've done an amazing amount of work taking that book out, you know, to get into the hands of the people that desperately need assistance. And again, it's one of those topics that you can never have enough information around. Yeah.
But the way that you've, you know, illustrated it so beautifully and gently, yet it hits the mark.
Yeah.
We're very specific about the books that we sell because there are thousands on the market.
Yes.
But you know, we want to make sure that they are aligned with the language that we use. And there are some books out there that, for instance, if it's talking about private body parts. It doesn't include your mouth. Well, your mouth's a private part, so we don't use those. But, you know, the ones that we've chosen of yours, we're so thrilled with because it hits the mark. But it does it so beautifully without being confronting. You know, people wouldn't think about buying a book about domestic violence unless you know, you're at a women's shelter or something like that. But it can be read to a class, and there will be children in the class that are experiencing this, but it's not, I don't believe that it's going to trigger them or traumatize them. And the way that he goes to his teacher and talks about he didn't feel safe and things like that, that's totally protective behaviours. And, you know, we again, I will be using the already written ones, but we'll also link it to the safety team and the language that we specifically use.
Sorry, I just shunned away my son who was about to walk in. The joys of
going live. Exactly. No, it's great. Now, Nicky, if people want to follow your beautiful, because I mean these are only 3. How many have you personally written yourself?
So I have done 5, written and illustrated. I've done 5, I think. But I think in total, I think I've got about 15 books. I think. I forget where, because they take so long, I forget where they're at in the process. As to, are they out yet?
Because you did write one, didn't you, about children with
juvenile arthritis. Yes.
I mean, that's a real niche.
Absolutely. And again, that was another book that you know, I was approached to specifically create a book for that need. Again, which is different to you know, a children's book that goes into you know, a bookshop kind of thing. It's a particular niche, and I'm in the middle of at the moment doing a book for Hand in Hand, which is an organisation dealing with children with brain cancer. So that's a pretty, I didn't write it. I'm working with Coral Vass. We're co-working on this book. Still not sure when that one's coming out, but we are almost at the point of getting onto the finals for that.
That's exciting.
So I do lots of that sort of stuff, as well as the books that go into the bookshops.
Because you need commercial, but you know, children with specific needs like that, it is so important that they're represented.
Absolutely.
You know, I still don't think there's enough books with children of diversity and disability and things like that, and you know, same-sex parents. We need you know, children that you know, identify as a different gender. So it's really thrilling that, you know, there are people like you that are willing to tackle the not commercial.
I think there's more people doing that now. I think it's sort of become a little bit more, you know, everything has a purpose and there's never enough books ever. So, you know, I think
it's nice to have books rather than an iPad that you just scroll.
I don't think children's books work so far. The stats don't show that it actually has affected the digital side of things. There's nothing better than having a book, particularly children's books, where you've got beautiful illustrations and things like that. But that's my thoughts.
And I'm with you because, you know, cuddling up next to a child to cuddling with them at night time and scrolling past an iPad doesn't really cut it. But if people want to follow your journey like I have, watching your beautiful illustrations that you share, can you share, and I will put the links to both your Instagram and Facebook, but where can people find you if they're interested in?
I'm on all the socials. If you Google just my name, but my website has links to everything anyways, which is Nicky Johnston at I'll start again. NickyJohnston.com.au.
Fantastic.
Is my website.
Nicky, thank you for giving us your time and thank you for your beautiful books. I look forward to following your journey with your beautiful artwork. And if people would like to have a look at Nicky's books, you'll find them on our website. So thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.